Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start by asking you, the listener, about that feeling, that moment of intense pressure. You know the one I mean.
Yeah.
The expectation for instant opinions, right? The demand for quick replies. That rush to deliver a hot take before the dust is even settled on the question itself.
Oh, absolutely. That anxiety is, well, it's almost woven into modern life, isn't it? We've been so thoroughly conditioned, to treat silence as just awkward, or maybe a sign of intellectual failure, or that taking time means you're unprepared or maybe unsure.
Exactly. And that's the tension, the very thing we want to explore today. What if that pressure, that need to answer immediately, is actually the thing preventing real insight, preventing truth from emerging? What if our go-to response, the habitual one, is what's really obscuring wisdom? So our deep dive today is into something maybe a little counterintuitive. The quiet courage of not knowing.
Yes. Our mission, if you like, is to explore the power that lies in the deliberate pause, that tiny sliver of stillness just before you speak. And we want to frame this pause not as hesitation, not as an absence of something, but as active presence, a kind of invitation, really, to step decisively out of what you call the river of reaction. And in doing so, reclaim our own voice.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. I'm really fascinated by this idea that the pause is actually a form of readiness. But let's push back a little here. Let's introduce some friction. In a meeting, say, or a negotiation, even in a heated argument, silence often reads as uncertainty or, lack of conviction, maybe even vulnerability. How do we use the pause without seeming like we're losing authority?
That's the crucial distinction, isn't it? It's about the intention behind the pause. If you pause because you're desperately scrambling for the right words, well, that is hesitation. And yes, that can read as weakness. But if you pause because you are consciously choosing to be present in that moment, that reads very differently. That can actually signal authority. Something fiercely active is happening internally in that stillness. You're making a shift. You're moving away from the you that performs or defends or has to explain to the you that simply is.
Right, so it's less about a fumbling defense mechanism, more like a deliberate state of being. It all sounds like a kind of internal martial art.
In a way it is. It's the quietest form of rebellion against what you might call the tyranny of immediacy. It's a refusal, really, to let those ingrained habitual thought patterns just speak for you. Think about a stone dropped into a still pond. Your immediate words, the reactive ones, they're the loud, dramatic splash, just noise, surface commotion.
Okay, the splash is the immediate reaction. And the pause, what's it in the analogy?
The pause. That's the moment the water itself seems to hold its breath, just before the ripples begin to spread out. Without that conscious, momentary stillness, all you have is noise, only the splash. There's no depth there, only surface drama, and the deepest communication, the most meaningful ripples, they don't come from the force of that initial splash. They come from the stillness that allows the ripples to actually form and travel outward.
Okay, so if the stillness of the water allows for depth, what does that stillness require from us internally? I mean, how do we make sure that when we do finally speak, it's an authentic ripple, like you said, and not just another echo of that first noisy splash? Because honestly, my mind is always rushing to fill that gap. That silence feels empty.
That rush you feel, that is the central challenge, absolutely. To create that space for depth, we first have to confront our own fullness. There's a classic Zen teaching about this exact thing, you might know it. A learned professor, very eager for knowledge, goes to visit a Zen master, and he talks and talks, laying out all his philosophies, his theories, explaining everything he already knows.
Right, filling the space. The master must have found the conversation a bit one-sided.
Well, the master listened very patiently. Then he simply started pouring tea for his visitor. But he didn't stop when the cup was full. He kept pouring until the tea was spilling over the brim, onto the saucer, running down onto the table, even onto the floor.
And the visitor, horrified, shouts out, "Master, stop! The cup is full. No more will go in."
Precisely. And the master just looked at him and said very calmly, "So are you. How can I possibly teach you or even truly communicate with you if you are already completely full?
What?
Full of your own answers, your opinions, your assumptions."
Wow, okay. The overflowing cup. That's our mind, isn't it? Constantly spilling over with judgments and preformed replies, even when we think we're listening. We're so full of our own next thought, our anticipated response, that we can't actually absorb the reality of the present moment.
And the pause. You see, the deliberate pause. That's the moment we consciously choose to set that overflowing cup down. We give ourselves permission to simply not know, even just for a second. That intentional act creates an empty space, a receiving space. And that allows something genuinely new, something fresh, to potentially enter. This isn't passive waiting, it's an active, even brave choice. It allows the answer or the response to emerge from a place of depth rather than just from that shallow, reactive surface of the ego. It's about reclaiming your voice from your habits.
I can really see how challenging this is in practice, though. I mean, we're constantly in motion, filling every calendar slot, filling every conversational gap.
Right.
It's almost automatic. So where do we find these deliberate pauses? In the mundane chaos of just daily life.
They're everywhere, actually, once you start looking.
Yeah.
We find them in what Japanese aesthetics and Zen philosophy call ma. It's a concept often translated as the pregnant space or the gap between things. But it's crucial to understand it's not an absence, it's not empty, it's a vital presence. Ma is like a threshold, something to be honored, not just a vacuum we need to quickly fill.
I love that image, the pregnant space. It implies potential, doesn't it? Like something is growing, developing in that quiet. So why is it so hard for us to honor that threshold? Why the rush?
Well, because honoring ma requires patience. And our culture, it prizes speed above almost everything else. Think about music for a second.
And called the rest.
Right. Without those silent spaces between the notes, there's no melody, there's no rhythm, just noise, cacophony. Ma is the rest. And when you honor that space, you give shape and structure and meaning to whatever follows it.
Okay, so practically speaking then, where does this ma show up when we're, say, deep diving into complex information? Or we're making important decisions?
It appears constantly. Think about a virtual meeting. A really difficult piece of data is presented. Your gut reaction, your instinct, might be to immediately refute it, or agree too quickly, or jump in with a follow-up question. Ma is the choice to take maybe just 2 seconds. Look out the window, perhaps. Process the data without immediate judgment. Just allow the implications to surface before you speak. Or it's that hover before you hit send on a really crucial email, one outlining a major strategic decision maybe. That moment of hesitation, that hover, that's often where the wisdom resides.
And if we shift this to the personal sphere, that's where the vulnerability really kicks in, isn't it? It feels much easier, much safer to take a pause on a business email than in a personal confrontation.
Absolutely, the stakes feel higher. Ma is that moment when your partner asks a really sensitive question. And you feel that powerful urge to instantly defend yourself, justify your actions. But instead, you just take one full, silent breath. That breath is ma. It's an immediate, quiet rebellion against the ego's desperate need to be right now. And this brings us perhaps to a kind of modern koan, a riddle for our times. Imagine you get a text message from a loved one, and it simply reads, "Are we okay?" Your entire internal system just screams, doesn't it? Fix it, reassure them immediately, do something. But what if you just let that question hang in the air for a moment?
Yeah, the instinct is definitely performance. Solve the problem fast. Send a barrage of reassuring texts, make a phone call right away.
Yes, but that question, are we okay? It's usually not asking for facts or a quick fix. It's often a much deeper cry, a cry for presence. If you rush in with reassurance, you might just be offering a superficial performance, Band-Aid. But if you choose ma, if you allow the silence between you to deepen just for a beat, you create space for something truer than performance to emerge. You signal that you're willing to receive the full weight of their feeling, not just react defensively to their words.
This idea that the pause allows for a truer response. It brings up a kind of paradox, doesn't it? Why does practicing silence make our eventual words more powerful, not less? It seems backwards.
Because words that arise from that stillness, they simply are truer. They resonate differently. They come from a place that has listened not just to the words spoken, the language used, but to the silence beneath that language, the unspoken context, the feeling behind the question. It's like you're listening to the whole architecture of the other person's reality, not just looking at the front door.
So when we pause, we're actually giving the gift of our undivided attention. And that attention itself acts as a kind of mirror.
Exactly that. The other person feels truly seen, not because you jumped in with the right answer or the perfect solution, but because your silence, your chosen stillness, became a mirror, reflecting your undivided attention back at them, not reflecting your reflexive opinion or your judgment. You are simply witnessing them.
That level of attention, it moves us away from just conceptual knowledge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really brings to mind one of the most famous and maybe most jarring Zen koans. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. It sounds so violent, but it's really about liberation from concepts, isn't it? Not literal violence.
It is the ultimate liberation from fixed ideas, yes. It means don't cling to the idea of the Buddha or the idea of enlightenment or the perfect answer or even the perfect reply you've rehearsed in your head. The Buddha in this context represents any conceptual framework, any idea that you use to avoid direct, unmediated experience of the present moment.
Okay, and how does that apply to the pause we're talking about? In conversation.
Well, our Buddha on the road in a difficult conversation is often that preformed reply. The argument we've mentally rehearsed, the clever philosophical quote we're waiting to drop. When we choose to pause, we consciously kill the Buddha by dropping that rehearsed answer. We let it go. We choose instead to stand present in the moment, ready for whatever actually is, unscripted. The real practice isn't in quoting wisdom, it's in dropping the quote. It's engaging in the radical act of just doing one thing at a time with your whole being.
This feels like the heart of that famed Zen simplicity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the story of the master who, when asked how he attained enlightenment, just replied, "When I eat, I eat. When I sleep, I sleep."
That is the very heart of it, that radical, simple presence. And it's only truly accessible through the gateway of the pause. The pause allows your words, when they finally come, to be like a fresh green shoot reaching for the light, rather than just another noise, another echo bouncing off the same old walls. Presence is feeling the weight of the coffee mug in your hand, tasting the bitter warmth on your tongue. The pause is the doorway into that single-pointed, fully embodied attention.
So the pause then is really an ultimate act of letting go. Letting go of the need to fix everything instantly, letting go of the need to be right, or even the need to prove our own usefulness or worth in that moment. It sounds like trusting that something deeper, something wiser than our reactive ego, is actually listening and can respond.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the whole nature of communication, we start to realize something profound. Sometimes the most profound answer is no answer at all. Not every question posed by life or by another person is a problem that actually demands a solution from us. Some questions are perhaps invitations to simply dwell in the mystery for a while, together.
So we need to perhaps reframe communication itself, not always as problem solving or just efficient information exchange, but maybe sometimes as co-presence, just a mutual witnessing of whatever is happening in that shared moment.
That witnessing, that shared presence, that willingness to stand in the uncertainty, maybe even the discomfort without flinching, without trying to immediately fix it or smooth it over with words, that might be the highest form of connection, of service even. The alchemy of the pause doesn't just change your words, it changes the very space between people. It creates a space where others can feel safe enough to be truly real, truly vulnerable.
That really is a transformative thought for how we approach pretty much every single interaction we have, every day.
So perhaps the deep dive leaves you, the listener, with this thought, the next time a question arises, whether it comes from a colleague, a loved one, or even just from your own restless mind. Try not to immediately reach for the answer you think you already know. The easy one.
Instead, maybe reach for the silence beneath it.
Yes, dive into that quiet, like a diver going into deep, still water. And trust. Trust that the deepest truths aren't manufactured in the frantic workshop of the ego. They're held, they're discovered, in the quiet courage of simply not knowing.
And maybe, just maybe, that is enough